So before I start, I just really want to just say thank you so much for having us here. I'm come with my team today, HSBC, and we really feel privileged to be on this stage and be able to talk with you. As you know, as a bank, financial inclusivity and financial fitness is the top of our agenda. Anything that we can do to impact our community personally and professionally and in an impactful manner is, as I said, really meaningful to us. So as just said, we will be talking about financial fitness for the next 30 minutes. And I was introduced, but as she said, I'm the local director for HSBC. What does that even mean? It means that I work with a fabulous team to look after our personal branches here in Birmingham. But enough about me. We've got some really good speakers today. So the first is I just want to introduce Ebony. So Ebony is the CEO of Rosetinted Financial, and I'll just give the mic to Ebony to talk a bit about herself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ebony. I am really just passionate about talking about money and mental health. Our mission at Rosetinted Financial Services is to raise awareness of the intricate relationship with money and mental health. And as we go through the talk today, you will definitely hear snippets of why that's important to me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ebony. And Sunny?
Sorry. Hi everyone, I'm Sunny. I work as a financial wellbeing consultant at HSBC. My job is to provide support to the public, so we have commercial clients and everyday clients as well, making sure that they feel supported with whatever it might be through their financial wellbeing journey. We provide financial education around budgeting, savings, and the whole point of our role is to be able to give people the confidence to be able to make independent decisions. So yeah, thank you for that.
How wonderful. Thank you so much, Ebony and Sunny. So this year's theme for Women's International Day is all about accelerating action. So we'll get right into it. And I've got some interesting stats for you just to paint the picture of why this conversation is so important. So to start, in 2024, 61% of young UK adults said they received no financial education at school, with women disproportionately affected. So when we take that stat even further and we look into the future, women retire on average with £69,000 in pension savings compared to men with £205,000 in savings. So this is not just the right conversation to have, but it's an important conversation to have. So coming to you, Ebony, first, what are some key steps that women... can you just share a personal or client story that illustrates how financial literacy, or even the lack of it, has impacted individuals?
Yeah, I can. So I think, first of all, just defining what financial literacy is important. It's basically the knowledge and skills to be able to support yourself financially. Because I think sometimes the key terms alone can be quite confusing and a barrier. But the personal story I'll share will be mine. Because Rosetinted Financial Services was really birthed out of a really dark time for me. I had just had a baby, so that definitely meant a change in income for me. I actually ended up on statutory maternity pay. And for those of you that have experienced that, it's not a lot of money. Previous to that, I'd been able to work. But all I knew was how to generate income. But actually, through starting the company and learning about budgeting, learning about saving, actually working with other organisations at the time to manage the debt I was in and create payment plans, that was how I increased my own personal financial literacy. And I'm pleased to say that I'm living proof that you can manage your money well and you can get out of debt. It is a skill, you know, knowledge and skill can really be taught in that area and all others.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing that and being vulnerable with us here today. Sunny, as just leaning in from what Ebony has just said, what would you say is the biggest misconception that holds women back from looking into their financial literacy?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question. So from the job that I do, I get to speak to many people on a daily basis about their financial circumstances. And I think from the experience of that, a lot of it is that people feel like they need to be perfect and they need to be so knowledgeable about, you know, investments or finances. And as you mentioned, Mwange, they teach us so much at school, but did they teach us how to use a credit card? Did they teach us how savings accounts work? We don't get any of that. So it's things like understanding that you don't need to know everything and being confident in what you do know, because we have the resources and the tools out there. And obviously I'm from HSBC, so I am going to shout up about my bank. We provide a really good financial proposition, financial wellbeing proposition that is open to the public. It's completely complimentary. It's you don't have to be a HSBC customer to be able to do that. But what we want to do is provide that confidence, because I think that is what it is. People feel like they need to be perfect. And with social media, we're always in a situation where I guess we're making somewhat sort of a comparison to the next person. So I've taken myself off social media to be able to stop that. I'm not saying everybody else has to do that, but making those comparisons is not the way to kind of deal with these sort of situations. Think about yourself, your self-development. What can you do to build your knowledge, and know that the tools and resources are out there. And if anybody does want any conversations or any information about what we have to provide at HSBC, we have got a stand in the corner over there, which I'll be at a little bit later on. So please do feel free to come and speak to me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sunny. I love what you said that about us not having to be perfect when we're talking about our finances, because finances are emotive, they're emotional, they're personal. They speak to our short-term and long-term goals, or sometimes they even speak to maybe the poorer decisions that we made. So it is quite difficult to talk about. So thank you so much for that. Just moving the conversation forward on that theme of accelerating action, I'd like us to look into tackling the gender pay gap and generating financial confidence. So with that being said, as a woman in leadership, this is a very interesting stat for me, but women in financial leadership roles earn 30% less than men in similar positions. Who's surprised? No, we've heard this one, haven't we, unfortunately? Okay. And only 1.8% of venture capital funding in 2023 went to female-led startups, down from 2.5% in 2022. So when we're building that confidence for women, it's not just about being in the room, getting the job, starting the business. It's really about that advocating for yourself. So when you are there, you're getting that correct salary and you're being paid correctly. So on that note, Ebony, what are some simple tips that women can take when they're negotiating that right salary or making sure their business is being paid fairly?
Okay, this one's such a big one because everyone starts from different playing fields. In that you sometimes have a natural confidence depending on what industry you've stepped into. I think that makes a huge difference. But a simple tip, I think, in terms of going in right now to whatever position you're in or you work for yourself, I think straight away is writing a list of everything that you do. So that's literally like a CV for yourself initially, because I think as women, naturally, we have so many roles. We don't tend to value them at the way that they should be valued. I know there's a statistic as well around women will only go for a job role if they fit about 8 or 9 out of 10, let's say, categories, where men will see 5 and think, I'm going to go for it. And I think there's something in that in terms of how we're wired to think. It's not just as simple. So I think what I would say for me is it's always had to be proving it to myself more than it has been to the world. So I think that's where women stand a lot. So do that activity with yourself. Sit down and think about all you do, all within your roles. Even I work with people who often they've had a child and then they want to go back into work or they want to launch a business and they'll go, I just don't feel confident anymore. Write down what it takes to be a mother, because you're a taxi driver, you are a cook, you are a negotiator when they're, throwing whatever across the, the high chair. So, make sure you recognize your value and try not to allow, comparison, cultural society, what they say about you to deny your greatness.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. And how about for our business owners? Because I'm sure in the room we've got some entrepreneurs as well who are struggling with that. Maybe they've got pushed back on the prices and they said, I'll knock something off, but in the long term that hurts them.
I think you've got to be at least, no, I'm not pushing that. You've got to be making a profit, because I was going to say you've got to be breaking even, but that's no, because it's Accelerate Action Year. So we are making a profit. And in today's economy, as we can see, it's more than, it's even more important. What I would say in my business, what I've had to do specifically is pivot. So we work a lot with public sector organisations, and we know the public sector, they're always holding onto their purse strings. So what I've had to do is pull up my big girl pants, excuse me, and go, right, I'm going for private. I have one contract that we've had with the private sector now for 2 years, and I've got very comfortable. But you know what? I've done it once, so I can do it. My goal this year is 3. Set a goal. Have a goal to say, I haven't done this before, but there is nothing that is without my reach. It's like when you start university or you drive a car. When you're going through those lessons, you can't see necessarily you passing the test, but you did it, you know? So, yeah, I think that's a real one. And value, it has to be at all times, recognising your value, doing things when you are afraid. You know, when Mwange asked me to sit on this stage, I have spoken before, but I knew this was a much bigger audience. I knew that it was something that, it was an opportunity. So I had to have a look at what I did before to prove to myself, one, that I can speak, but then also that the risk outweighed me staying comfortable. And sometimes you got to do it, girls, with your knees shaking and your stomach turning over. I do a lot of things like that. Even, sorry, I hope I'm not going too long, but
no, it's fine.
even just being the only black and woman in a room is often the situation. And so, you know, whatever race you are, whatever background, you know, I'm from a working class background as well. And I'm around tables now, which is crazy, you know, 5 years in business, fell into it through circumstance. And people are talking about £1 million contracts. I sometimes have to drive home in the car and go, where am I? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is going on here? But I have to process and go through a monologue with myself to recognize that as I'm taking these moves, the world around me is shifting. And so my value has to move according to that. If I still had some of the mindsets that I had when I was living where I came from, nothing wrong with that, because it's built my resilience and the work ethic, but it would stop me taking a lot of opportunities. So I think it's that, be bold,
Wonderful.
You know, take action, and you are great.
Lovely. No, Ebony, that's really beautiful. And I saw a lot of smiles in the room. People are resonating with what you're saying. You know, you touched on leadership, self-confidence, that inner self-dialogue as well. So, so, so important. Just building on from that, you know, Sonny, you and I talk about this all the time. Financial well-being goes hand in hand with your personal well-being. It's how you turn up. It's how you show up. So, Sonny, could you just talk a bit about that so we can get to that point like Ebony is, where we're taking action?
Yeah, sure. So, as you just mentioned, how many of us actually sit there and think, oh, you know, I go to the gym, so that's my physical well-being sorted. And then we talk about our mental well-being, but financial well-being and mental well-being go hand in hand. And the amount of people that don't, not because they don't want to, it's just that they don't have the time, they get busy and don't put those kind of, that energy back into their financial well-being. But financial well-being is about feeling confident. But also when you are building upon yourself, you want to make sure that, I feel like, for me, I'm quite sometimes negative in the way that I'm thinking, but I need to sometimes take some time out to celebrate my own wins. I've come a long way, you know, we've all gone through a lot of difficulties in life, we all have our challenges, but just making sure that you're taking time out to recognise the wins that you have done. And you mentioned, I don't have children, but the way you broke it down then, that you're a taxi driver, you're a referee, because I know I've got nieces and nephews and sometimes I'm a referee between them. But it does have a lot, but just taking that time out to have that concentration on your financial well-being as well. And just making sure that you are surrounding yourself with positive people as well. I think when you put yourself in a situation where you're surrounded by negativity, it's a bit like an emotional vacuum, drags you down, but take yourself, be aware of these things. And only when you start understanding the sort of, you know, financial person you are, so there's online quizzes that you can do if you want to find out the sort of spender you are, for example, being able to recognize your weaknesses, but not to dwell on them and feel like, oh, you know, I feel sad and depressed over them. Now you are in a position to recognize them and do something about it. So start working on it again. Join the HSBC financial propositions, join our webinars, conversations, whatever it might be. But reaching out for help and having the confidence to do that as and when you need it is really, really important. So yeah, thank you for that, Mwange.
That's really beautiful. And I love what you said about being willing to talk to others and learn. We're in a fantastic room right now, guys. We've all given the time and invested in being here today. There's going to be someone sitting next to you or perhaps at one of these stands that you can talk to and also share. Listen, this is what I'm trying to get to. Ebony's talking about million pound contracts in the room, guys. Who wouldn't like that? So let's just make sure we're also taking the opportunity to talk to each other and also be brave and share where we're trying to go. Each and every one of us have a goal in this room, whether it's a new business proposition, whether it's a new job, whether it's just to save a bit more money. There's nothing wrong with that, but let's go on this journey together. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. So just moving that conversation further, we're going to go on to practical strategies for budgeting, saving, and investing. Again, keeping with our theme of taking action. Okay, so let's have a read. My neck is I'm having to turn around. Okay, let's go. Okay, so nearly 29% of women save less than £100 per month compared to 15% of men. Moving that further, men are almost twice as likely to invest in stocks and shares at ISA. So when we're talking about that action, that tells us men are twice as likely to take action. And we need to change that. We want to be in that room too. Even if it's a small action, I implore you guys today, whatever it is, if it's savings for you, reviewing your debt, looking at your business plan with a 12-month trajectory, let's take that action. So on that note, Ebony, what's a simple but powerful budgeting strategy that has helped women gain control over their finances?
It's the one we've all heard before. Start small. I know sometimes when we hear things over and over again, it can be a bit of a roll, but it's real. Just like Mwange was just saying, if you're saving already and you can incrementally increase that, or you can look to use like a bank account, perhaps where you're earning interest on that money. It's whatever is the next step for you. I think if you're sitting in the audience and you're in debt, I know the shame and guilt and that and the worry, especially. I think there's levels to debt. There's manageable debt that you can get to where you have the payment plans that I mentioned. And then there's the hiding the letters in the drawer. So depending on where you are on that scale, just take your next step. We're an organisation that's here. I'm here with a member of my team today. HSBC are here. I mean, I didn't even know about Sonny's team as well and what they offer. You don't have to be a customer. I remember the day when I was in the CAB, Citizens Advice Bureau. Do we know that? And you had to queue up outside. You don't have to do that anymore. But that day, I went with my bag of letters, and the weight that dropped off me when that man sat with me and my mum for about 3 hours in the end, because I was hiding it from everyone. It only became real when, bailiffs with the car. But that's another story. You'll have to add me on socials. But just don't stay stuck. Take whatever that next step is for you. Some of you might be avid savers. My best friend, we always laugh. We're completely opposite. She is, down to a pound. She knows what she's doing naturally. I had to learn that skill. But if you like that, could you be, as a woman, I'm trying to influence her to try and do like a stocks and shares ISA, to do something different. Because some of us with money, saving is not our problem, but because saving is always good, but we're clutching onto it. We're not willing to take that risk. But I'm not a financial advisor. You should seek, proper professional financial advice on that.
Wonderful. No, that was really good. And Ebony, I must say, I really love how you're being vulnerable, because when we start to have those open conversations, that's when we really get into the crux of that taking action. So on the subject of that, Sunny, if someone is sitting in the crowd today, I know we've plugged HSBC, we've spoke about Rosetinted Financial, but if someone is literally saying, okay, but what do I do? Where are you? How do I find you? What am I going to do today? Can you just really make that simple for us?
Yes. So I think the best place to start is to set goals. So when I talk to customers about setting goals, the truth of the matter is I don't know what I'm doing this weekend, let alone what I'm going to be doing in a year or 2 years. But it's just important to try and have something, whether it's a holiday, and if it's me, a pair of shoes, whatever it might be, having a goal in place. And they do say psychologically, if there's a goal attached to your savings, you're more likely to save towards it and to stick to that savings goal as well. It's all about building habits. I was terrible. Can you imagine working in financial well-being, talking to people about financial well-being and not having your own budget? Slightly embarrassing, but I thought, no, I need to do something and make a change, because I wanted to have a little bit of kind of passion behind what I was saying and not a tick box exercise. So to build my habits, really, really, really simple thing to do. set reminders in your phone, set reminders in your Outlook, whatever you want to do to say, this is the day that I'm going to do budgeting. Obviously, I was a little bit younger and a little bit more free, so budgeting wasn't probably my priority, so I'd set 2 reminders. So if I couldn't commit to one, I'd commit to the second one at least. Obviously, I've matured a lot, kind of, since then. But now I'm doing my budgeting without having that reminder in my calendar. But like I said, setting goals, giving yourself something to work towards, something that means something to you. Visual reminders. I used to have a Ferrari on the... This is so embarrassing. I can't believe I'm sharing this out loud. But having a Ferrari on my wallpaper on my phone, it just had me like, you know, I want to get somewhere. I want to do something. But people make mood boards. I don't know if anybody else has got one of a mood board at home, but having these visual reminders on a daily basis keeps you going. And you've got to remember, as sad as it is, somebody else can't take us through our financial journey. We might have parents, supportive friends, children, whatever it might be, but they can't do the actual work to get us to the position we want to get to. We have to do that ourselves. So whatever you can do, and like I said, it sounds probably a bit boring, psychology and money, but there are resources out there that you can use. Even the smallest of quizzes, they take like 30 seconds. But having that understanding of who you are, what your goals are, how you can get there is probably the most important thing. I'm just going to check, automate your savings as well. So if you're making manual savings, automate them. But again, I think another misconception, because I know we were speaking about them at the beginning, is people feel like savings are massive. They have to be in the hundreds, thousands. Okay, thousands might be a bit much, but in the hundreds of pounds. No. You can start off with £5 and gradually build up. And that's what I did. I wasn't in the best of financial situations like yourself, Ebony. And I had to find a way. And I started off with £5 exactly. And as I was going up 5 to 10, each time was an achievement for me. And I felt that kind of confidence, that satisfaction when I was doing it. But again, don't make comparisons to the person next to you. We all have different lives, different life stages, different responsibilities. See yourself as an independent person. And if that means to, you know, pause things, activities, going out, do what you need to do for yourself. And like I said, I can't emphasize how important financial well-being is to people and how much it has an effect on your mental well-being. So please, if there's anything that you do take away, get some goals in place, get your savings automated, review your savings accounts, and then also take care of yourself. And again, we're here to support you throughout that journey if it is required as well. So yeah, thank you.
That's lovely. As women speaking to a largely women-led audience, I love that we're empowering each other, because what I'm seeing from what you've both just said is you're giving us grace. We read earlier, most women didn't get that financial education. Maybe we're getting it now on TikTok, through work, through events like this, but we didn't get that starting point. So again, no, I love that. And I'm very much with you on the automating and using digital services just to make it easier. So we spoke about actions we can take today, but earlier we spoke about that long-term outlook. So when you are looking to retire and how we can really make that situation much more financially comfortable. So on that note, we've got some stats here, and it says 41% of women in the UK say their financial situation worsened in 2024 compared to 27% of men. And also, Sunny, you mentioned that cutting down activities, knowing where you're actually at with your finances. We've got here 40% of women had to cut back on activities to enjoy due to financial constraints versus men in 2028. So as I said, I'd like us to really consider the future, the long term. So Ebony, when we're talking about the long term, can you just tell us a bit about what's the mistakes that we're making when we're thinking about that long-term retirement outlook?
I think we should start thinking about it sooner, but then match that thinking with the action that we're talking about today. And I think even if the action is just beginning to speak to a service, speak to a friend about that, because that's what action can be. But I think that inability to think quicker, and also scaling up the career ladder or the business quicker. I think ultimately when you don't have enough disposable income, it means that it's hard for you to then think about putting aside money for retirement. So I think if we can push forward, you know, just incrementally on all fronts, an increased disposable income, which is your income, you know, that's left after you've paid everything. Then you can put to that. I think it's hard if you're constantly just breaking even. But then there's some real practical tools where Sonny's already kind of hinted at it, where what about if your retirement just started at £5 for a week? I mean, I have a credit union. I'm not going to say what name it is because I'm not I'm not recommending products here today. But if you haven't heard of credit unions, go and look at them. They are, you know, they're like your friendly local service if you don't want to go to a bank and start that investment. But that works for me because you can do it where I have my child benefit goes into there. So once I realized, and I made that big decision at first to kind of do it, and I was like, oh, I want the money, but I do it now. I don't even realize that I don't get my child benefit anymore. So it just can be a little thing. You could do that with a partial amount. Oh, sorry. You could do that with a partial amount of that amount, you know, something really minimal, but that's just accumulating now because it's out of my way from my normal bank. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. And we really need to listen to what Ebony has just said there, because currently, and this is as of last year, the gender pension gap means women need to work an extra 19 years on average to match the retirement savings of men. I'll say that again, 19 years the average woman needs to work for a longer period than men. So this is really important, you know. And I know that, you know, we're not trying to direct you to any services. Go to your bank, go to a credit union, do your own research. But at HSBC, we can also talk to you about your pension. And I know many of you are thinking, oh, I already pay into one with my employer. But we need to make sure that it's working well for you. And all it takes is a conversation. So come and talk to us. Let's get you booked in. Let's get you sat with one of our wealth managers and we'll see what we can do for you. And also, if you are a business owner, it's very important that you start thinking about putting money away for your future. And I know you may be thinking about that, but these are really important conversations to have. So coming to you, Sunny, on that note as well. So
Anything to add?
Yes, yeah. Anything to add? I love that. She saved me there. Women helping women right now. Thank you.
So, yeah, with your future, I think that again, we don't get taught these things at school. So we're all in the same position, but because we don't talk to each other about our finances, because it's a private conversation, right? And it's not the most comfortable to have. But I would say if you have got a pension, when was the last time you reviewed it? Do you know how much your employer is contributing towards your pension as well? Are you in a position to be able to match it? And the key foundation to a good way of being in, you know, a good space with your financial well-being is to budget. Without knowing how much money you've got coming in, you have no idea how much is going out. You have no idea how much you could put towards your savings or your pensions. So understand your pension as much as, again, you don't have to be an expert. I do this for a living. I am not an expert on pensions. But what I do know is what my contributions are, the impact that it has on my salary, and I'm also able to check the system to see how well it's performing as well. And I'll be honest, I don't know about the numbers. If the lines are doing this, I know it's not doing well. If the lines are going this way, then we know we're in a good position. But find out who you can talk to as well for free. There are companies out there that I'm not allowed to speak about, but if you just do a little search on Google or whatever it might be to find out where you can get basic advice, but there's so many articles there, and I can speak about this guy, Martin Lewis. You either love him or you hate him, but he's got so many articles on the basics of pensions. Just trying to get yourself educated and understanding to a basic level is okay. Yes. And if you need more help, then reach out to your pension provider, see how much support that they can give you as well. But again, make sure we are thinking about it. I think when we're young, we think, oh, pensions, when I'm old, I'll deal with it. Yeah, that comes around quite quickly. And then before you know it, you're like, oh my God, maybe I should be thinking about my pension. But if this is something that you're in full control of, brilliant. But this is something that you should be able to talk to your family, if you've got children, nephews, nieces, friends, whatever it might be. The earlier you start, the better position you'll be in. Because if you're anything like me, when I'm retired, I want to be on a beach, sipping cocktails, enjoying myself, not being restricted on how much money I have. So please take a little bit of time out if you can to have a look at your pension, again, the contributions, the variety of pensions that are out there, and reach out for help if it is required. So yeah, thanks for that.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for
Oh,
encouraging
sorry,
us. Yeah.
Mwange, just
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah.
One thing.
Yeah.
I want to say something that I've learnt as well is we put so much pressure on ourselves and we put a plan in place and we think that's it. This is a solid plan and we're going in this direction. Remember, it's your plan. Review it, adjust it, whatever suits you. Your life stages change, things change. So make sure that your plan is adjusting with the way that your life's going to. And now I will stop talking.
Fantastic. No, we could listen to you all day. So, and on that note, guys, we're going to start wrapping up this session. But there's a lovely quote here from a lady called Claire Booth-Roos. And it says, a woman's best protection is the little money of her own. And also, we're not just talking about money in the physical sense. We're talking about that education, that empowerment, that call to action. So if you've got your phone with you, take a minute, write a note on your phone, hold yourself accountable and put that long-term and short-term goal for you. So just to you both, or waving at someone, Ebony, always making friends. It's okay. It's okay. So if you just had to give just one thing to the audience to do today, what would it be?
One, can I merge two together?
Of course.
Budgeting and talking to your provider. If there's any difficulty that you're in, look, we work for the bank. When I was in that position, I used to think, oh God, I don't know what bank staff are like. But we're people and we have empathy and we want to really genuinely help people out. So make sure you've got your budgeting in order. And if you need help, please, please, please do feel free to reach out.
Okay, and then you've got to share the goal. So if it's with a bank, that class is, but I want you to share it with somebody close to you to hold you accountable. It's really, really important. So you can't back out. And then with that goal, there's a timeline and there's clear details of what you're going to do.
Wonderful. And Ebony, just coming to you, are there any resources that perhaps you'd recommend for someone to just make a note of in their phone to look into and connect with as well?
So I like the Diary of the CEO. I know it's been going for a while, but he has a really good podcast session with the man that wrote Psychology of Money, actually. And there's various other people on there. But I also think, as we've mentioned today, money is money, but there's mental health in with it as well. So whatever that is for you, I think the book, the podcast that feeds you spiritually, as well as sort of mentally as well, is really, really important. I think bridge the two and you'll find you'll meet that, that middle, the things that affirm you. I have one that probably is a bit random. It's called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. He's a real hard hitting. You're nodding. You've heard it. Yeah, you know what? I'm I try to be really kind of like a cutesy. It's not a cutesy book, but I read that book when I was working. It was year one of Rosetinted, and that brought that big boss girl energy that I needed. And he actually came from a lot of turmoil and read it. I don't want to ruin it, but I think those kind of books as well to channel perhaps something that you're not used to chant, really, really powerful.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Ebony. And just a quick one, guys, because it's the last moment. Is anyone on LinkedIn or Instagram? Can you just wave your hand if you are? Really important. Okay. What I'd really love you to do is type Rosetinted Financial. There's an event that's coming up on the 20th of March. 20th of March for business owners, called She Means Business. It's a fantastic event. I went to the last one. Carnell in the white shirt also went to the last one. We loved it. Can you just take 30 seconds just to talk to the audience and tell them why they should come, and then we'll wrap up?
Yeah, so She Means Business is exactly that. We come in the room, we network, we do give each other grace, but we hold each other to a standard of what we're going to do to execute for 2025. We're actually even, last year we did a bit of a thing where we picked on 3 women in the room. I say picked on, they were willing victims to actually come up and just do a pitch. Sitting in an audience like this and just talking, you just need to throw yourself in sometimes. So yeah, it's not really formal. You don't have to have it scripted 60 seconds. But yeah, and we just love to meet people at Rosetinted. It makes us happy when we're pushing out that energy, the things that we're kind of getting, behind the scenes.
So
as well.
Again, Rosetinted Financial on LinkedIn and Instagram.
Yeah.
But on that note, thank you, ladies. You guys have been fantastic. Round of applause for our SMEs here. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us, IWD. Wonderful.